The Ice type, the rarest Pokemon type, capable of applying the annoying status condition of Freeze. Pretty powerful offensively, but erroneous on the defensive side, as it has only one resistance, which is itself. However, it can be paired up with different types to improve its defensive capabilities. So here we go, calculating the best Ice type combination. To calculate the greatest type combination for this video, I will be using this formula. Hopefully I can simplify and explain this quickly. So basically a type combination will gain 2 points for each type it is super effective against, and a bonus 1 point if both of its affiliated types are super effective against the same type. It will lose 2 points for each weaknesses, an additional loss of 3 points if it has a double weakness. It will gain half a point for each resistance, another half point for every double resistance, lose 2 points if both types are resisted by the same type, gain 2 for each immunity, and lose 2 for each liability, which are types that are immune against it. Hopefully you understood that. If there is a tiebreaker, I will just choose. In 17th, and the worst Ice type combination is Ice and Grass. This combination is super effective against 6 types, both Grass and Ice being super effective against Ground. It has 6 resistances, but also 7 weaknesses with a double weakness to Fire. Both Grass and Ice are resisted by Steel and Fire. Final score, -6. In 16th is Ice and Normal. This type combination is unused. If it existed, it would be super effective against 4 types with 1 resistance. It would also have 4 weaknesses with a double weakness to Fighting. Both Normal and Ice are resisted by Steel, and it will have an immunity to Ghost, but also a liability to Ghost. Final score, -4.5. In 15th is Ice and Bug. This combination is super effective against 5 types, with both Ice and Bug being super effective against Grass. It has 3 resistances with 4 weaknesses and double weakness to Rock and Fire. Both Ice and Bug are resisted by Fire and Steel. Final score, -3.5. In 14th is Ice and Dragon. This combination is super effective against 4 types, with both Ice and Dragon being super effective against Dragon. It has 3 resistances with 5 weaknesses. Both Ice and Dragon are resisted by Steel and is a liability against Fairy. Final score, -3.5. In 13th is Ice and Psychic. This combination is super effective against 6 types with 2 resistances. It also has 6 weaknesses, and both Ice and Psychic are resisted by Steel, and it's a liability against Dark. Final score, -3. In 12th is Ice and Rock. This combination is super effective against 7 types, with both Ice and Rock being super effective against Flying. It has 4 resistances and 6 weaknesses, with a double weakness to both Fighting and Steel. Both Ice and Rock are resisted by Steel. Final score, -3. In 11th is Ice and Dark. This combination is super effective against 6 types with 3 resistances. It also has 6 weaknesses with a double weakness to Fighting and the immunity to Psychic. Final score, 0.5. In 10th is Ice and Poison. This type combination is unused. If it existed, it would be super effective against 5 types, with both Ice and Poison being super effective against Grass. It would have 5 resistances and also 5 weaknesses. Plus it would be a liability to Steel. Final score, 1.5. In 9th is Ice and Fairy. This combination is super effective against 6 types, with both Ice and Fairy being super effective against Dragon. It would have 3 resistances and 4 weaknesses, with a double weakness to Steel. Both Ice and Fairy are resisted by Steel and Fire, but it will have the immunity to Dragon. Final score, 1.5. In 8th is Ice and Fire. This combination is super effective against 7 types, with both Ice and Fire being super effective against Grass. It would have 4 resistances with a double resistance to Ice, and have 4 weaknesses with a double weakness to Rock. Both Fire and Ice are resisted by Water and Fire. Final score, 2.5. In 7th is Ice and Electric. This combination is super effective against 5 types. Both Ice and Electric are super effective against Flying and 3 resistances. It also has 4 weaknesses and is a liability against Ground. Final score, 2.5. In 6th is Ice and Steel. This combination is super effective against 7 types with 8 resistances and a double resistance to Ice. It also has 3 weaknesses with a double weakness to both Fire and Fighting. Ice and Steel type attacks are resisted by Fire, Steel, and Water, but it does have an immunity to Poison. Final score, 2.5. In 5th is Ice and Flying. This combination is super effective against 6 types, with both Ice and Flying being super effective against Grass. It would have 2 resistances and 4 weaknesses, with a double weakness to Rock. Both Ice and Flying are resisted by Steel, but it has the immunity to Ground. Final score, 3. In 4th is Ice and Water. This combination is super effective against 6 type, with both Ice and Water being super effective against Ground. It would have 2 resistances with a double resistance to Ice and 4 weaknesses. Final score, 4.5. In third is Ice and Fighting. This combination is super effective against 9 types with 3 resistances. It also has 6 weaknesses and is a liability against Ghost. Final score 5.5. In second is Ice and Ghost. This combination is super effective against 6 types with 3 resistances. It also has 5 weaknesses, but is a liability against normal, but also immunity to normal and fighting. Final score 5.5. In first place, and the best ice type combination is Ice and Ground. This combination is super effective against 9 types with 1 resistance. It also has 5 weaknesses and is a liability against flying, but does have the immunity to electric. Final score 8.5. Yeah, that's my calculation of the ice type combinations. Since it lacks defense, it needs to be paired up with another type that gives it defensive coverage, or just be paired up with the ground and hope you beat them before they beat you. Yeah, that's the video. That's about it.